Hello students, this is the lecture 5 under module 1 in Big Data Analytics. In the last lecture, we have seen what are the types of data sources and how do we perform sampling. Now we are ready to go with the next topics, types of data elements, visual data exploration and exploratory statistical analysis, and how to deal with missing values. Now, before going to the types of data elements, why we actually need to categorize the data elements? Appropriately considering different types of data elements at the start of the analysis is very crucial to the analysis task. So we need to classify between the data elements that are available at hand. We can classify the data elements into two types, continuous and categorical. Now, what are continuous data elements? Data elements that are defined on an interval that can be finite or infinite, that can be limited or unlimited. We can call them as continuous data elements. For example, if we take sales or income of a person or stock price of some bonds, all these are continuous data elements. Weight of a person, height of a person, these are like float values, so we call them as continuous data elements. Again, in this continuous data elements, if they are within a meaningful range, then we call them as finite continuous data elements. Say a person's a person's weight can't be beyond 200 or below 0. So in that case, we call that as finite and continuous data element. Now coming to the next type of data element, it is categorical, which is further classified into three types: nominal, ordinal and binary. Now what is this nominal data element? The data elements which take only a limited set of values with no meaningful ordering in between, we call them as nominal data elements. So example for this can be profession of a person. This requires some textual value such as professor or doctor or engineer. It has some nominal values. Or health condition of a patient. Say he is diabetic or blood pressure high, blood pressure low. All these are health conditions which can be nominal, right? There doesn't have any specific ordering. But when we come to the next category of the categorical data elements, they are ordinal, means they can take on a limited set of values but with a meaningful ordering in between. Examples can be qualification, because the qualification of a person starts right from SSLC, PUC, degree, post graduation, doctorate, and so on. There is a specific ordering for mentioning this kind of values to the data element. In that case, we call them as ordinal values. Also, we can take another example of apparel size, which can start from extra small, small, medium, large, extra large, double XL. All these are examples for apparel size which has some specific order. We call this kind of data elements as ordinal data elements. And the last type of categorical data element is binary. These are data elements that take only two values. In case of gender, it can take only two values, say male, female, or employment status. In that case, we can say a person is employed or unemployed, right? These are called as binary data elements. Now, appropriately distinguishing between these different data elements is of key importance to start the analysis when importing data into the analytical tool. For example, if we take apparel size is incorrectly specified as a continuous data element instead of a categorical data element, then the software would calculate its mean, standard deviation, variance, and so on, which is actually meaningless. So it is very important to classify the data elements before starting the analysis process. Now coming to visual data exploration, getting to know this visual data exploration will help us to know about the data in an informal way. Something like we are performing preliminary investigation about the data, results of which can then be usually adopted throughout the modeling process. So this preliminary investigation will help us to proceed with our analysis process further by making use of the results of this preliminary investigation. For this, we have a handy set of plots and graphs. The first type of chart we consider here is a pie chart. This pie chart represents variables distribution as a pie, where each section represents the portion of the total percent taken by each component or value of the variable. Say in this example, among the total population, about the defaulters of a loan available here for the analysis, we have categorized them into good customer and bad customer based on some parameters: owning a house, renting a house, or they're staying for free. I mean, they're staying maybe with their parents. In that case, we can see here that owning a house is an important parameter which plays an important role in deciding whether a customer will be a good customer or he may be a defaulter. The next type of charts we have are bar charts. Bar charts, I think these are the mostly used charts, which helps us to plot the frequency of occurrence of something. Say, if we take weights of students in a class and number of students having that weight. In this case, we normally observe that very less number of students and very large number of students have very less number of students have less weight and more weight, whereas most of the students have moderate weight in a class, something like a normal distribution, right? This kind of data can be represented by using bar charts. Next type of charts are histograms. These histograms provides an easy way to visualize the central tendency and to determine the variability or spread of the data. In cases like we have some intervals between 10, 20, 20, 30, 30, 40 and 40, 50. What is the frequency of data points? Say between 10, 20 we have these many data points, 20 to 30 we have these many data points, 30 to 40, 40 to 50 and so on. This will help us to know the distribution of the data. And the last type of plots we are considering here is scatter plots. These scatter plots helps us to visualize one variable against another variable to see whether there are any correlation patterns in the data. Say we take example of time spent on studying by a student and marks obtained by him. What is the correlation between these two? As the time spent on studying by a student increases, we obviously see that the marks also keep increasing, right? So we are trying to find the association between time spent on studying and marks obtained by a student. In this case, it is a positive correlation indicating that as the time spent on studying by a student increases, even marks obtained by him also increases. By this, we can understand that these two parameters are positively correlated. Now coming to the next topic, exploratory statistical analysis. This is the next step after visual analysis, and it could be of help in inspecting some basic statistical measurements such as averages, standard deviation, minimum, maximum, and confidence intervals. And also we can have in some programming languages like R, we can have a 5-point summary. In this investigation, we try to find out a 5-point summary about the data or about a variable, like mean of values of that parameter, and first quartile means how many, what is the range below which 25% of the data values fall, and median, which will give us the value below which 50% of the data values fall, and third quartile, which will give us the details about the range below which 75% of the data values fall under. And also it gives us details about the mode. This is called as a 5-point summary, which will help us to explore about the characteristics of that particular data element. And also it helps us to perform next level of preliminary investigation. So one could calculate these measures separately for each of the parameters to see whether there are any interesting patterns present, like sales are high during festival seasons, etc. Now let us move on to the next topic, how to deal with missing values. But let us first know what are the reasons to encounter these missing values in the data set. Sometimes the value for a data element may not be applicable. Say in the current scenario of data collection, say the time of churn information is available only for churners, right? So when we are taking the data set to predict whether a customer will be a churn customer or not, in that case, if we take a parameter time of churn, that information is available only for the churners. But for the non-churners, time of churn information will not be available. In this case, time of churn may not be applicable for non-churners. Similarly, time of closing the loan will be available only for good payers of the loan, but it may not be available for defaulters. And also sometimes undisclosed information may result in missing values. Undisclosed information in the sense, say if somebody doesn't want to disclose their information details about their income or some health related data which they feel it as private, in such cases, though the data under that parameter is being captured, that data what they doesn't want to disclose, that will remain as a missing value. And also error during merging. Say you're merging two data sets in which you have the name of the customer. In one data set, you have first name, last name, and middle name. And in the other data set, only name may be captured. Now, while merging these two data sets, this may result in some typo errors because there may be some incompatibility between first name, last name, and when the name is taken as a single name. Now, some analytical techniques can directly deal with missing values like decision trees. Other techniques need good enough pre-processing. So the most common methods to deal with missing values are replacing the missing value or deleting the missing value permanently, or sometimes keeping the missing value as it is. Let us discuss all these three methods in detail. Now, replacing a missing value is also called as imputing the value. Say missing credit bureau scores. In that case, in this example, we can see how to deal with these missing values by using replace method. In this scenario, under this parameter credit bureau score, these are the missing values. Now, if we want to replace these missing values reasonably, then we can calculate the average of the existing credit bureau scores, or we can take the median of the existing values and use that average or median to replace these values. That may be a reasonable replacement of the missing values. Also, if we take marital status in this case, now, how to replace this missing value? In this case, we can consider mode. Mode is frequently occurring value. In this case, we have single values 4 and widowed 1 married 2 and divorced 1. So the frequently occurring value is single. So that we can replace the missing values under this marital status by using this single status. And also we can sometimes apply regression based imputation. In this case, we develop a model through which we try to regress the dependent variable with an independent variable. We try to relate the dependent variable or a predicted variable with the independent variable, so that if any such value is missing in the dependent variable, we can develop a model which will calculate the predicted value based on the available values like age and income. Now the next type of method to deal with missing values is delete. It is a straightforward option. If the values are missing, we try to delete them, but we should be careful in this case. Why? Because if there are more missing values in a particular column, then better delete that column. But if there are more missing values in a sample or a data point, say if we take this sixth data point, in this case income value, marital status value, and also this credit bureau score, three of the values are missing. In this case, there is no point in considering this data point for analysis. So we have to see whether a column is having more number of missing values or a row is having more number of missing values. Based on that, if a column has more number of missing values, that column can be omitted. But in a data point case, if a row is having more number of missing values, that row also can be deleted. Now, while doing this delete, while taking up this delete method, we assume that information is missing at random and has no meaningful relationship to the target. Only then we can remove that particular data item. But if a parameter is having good influence on the predicted variable, in that case, we may have to retain it and check some other methods of dealing with that missing value. And the next type of method to deal with missing value is to keep the value, retain the value. Sometimes missing values may be meaningful. In the sense, customer didn't want to disclose his income because he is unemployed. That is a reasonable missing value. And this is clearly related to the target variable, like he will be a defaulter of a loan or not. Because he is unemployed, there are more chances for that person to be a defaulter. In that cases, it is always good to keep that missing value, to treat it as unemployed because the income value is not available. So one can start with statistically testing whether missing information is related to the target variable or not. If yes, then we can adopt the keep strategy and treat it as a special category, as a separate category. Otherwise, based on the frequency of missing values, we can decide whether to delete or impute them. Now, that's it with the current topic. In the next lecture, we are going to discuss about outlier detection and outlier treatment. See you in the next lecture.